He told me over dinner, not a serious sit-down conversation. Not even with dignity. He waited until the waitress had poured our wine, until the crab cakes had just touched the table. And then, as if he were casually discussing weekend plans, he said it. I'm in love with someone else. I've been seeing her for a while now. The wine glass didn't even make it to my lips. Everything around me froze. The clink of silverware, the low hum of conversation, the flicker of candlelight, it all blurred into background noise. My throat tightened. My first thought wasn't how could he. It was right now. Here, I stared at his face. There wasn't an ounce of remorse, just relief. Like confessing his betrayal had lightened some invisible weight on his chest. This was Michael, my husband of 12 years. The man who once cried during our wedding vows. The man who rubbed my back through every miscarriage, who brought me flowers on Tuesdays for no reason at all. Now calmly sipping Merlot, telling me that the life we built wasn't enough for him anymore. And her name? Lena, young blonde, she worked at his firm, of course she did. I'd met her once months ago, at the company holiday party. She'd complimented my dress. Her smile had been too wide. Michael didn't say much else that night. Just that he'd be moving out by the weekend, and that he hoped we could handle this like adults. I nodded slowly. My body moved on autopilot. I didn't cry. Not there. I waited until I was in the car, gripping the steering wheel in a dim parking lot, before the sobs came out like a flood. My heart cracked in silence while the rest of the world moved on. The days that followed felt unreal. He packed in under 2 hours, left his wedding ring in a shallow dish by the sink. Didn't even say goodbye to the dog. Just like that, he was gone, but it wasn't over. Because then came the photos, smiling, beach vacations, her in tight dresses wrapped around him like ribbon, her lips pressed to his cheek while he held champagne, her hand on his chest like she owned him. He was posting them publicly like our history was a chapter he'd torn out and burned. And her, she looked proud of it, like she won something. I didn't retaliate. I didn't post anything. I didn't beg. Instead, I watched. I watched them flaunt their bliss on social media. Weekend getaways, lavish dinners, designer bags. Michael was pouring money into their relationship, like it could buy away the guilt. And maybe it did for a while, because 6 months later he was still with her, still playing house, still pretending she hadn't walked into someone else's marriage and ripped it apart like paper. But something didn't sit right. I knew Michael, knew his spending habits. And I also knew his business had been struggling. Quiet layoffs, stalled contracts, the kind of things he used to stress about. Late into the night when we were still a team. So where was all this money coming from? Where was he getting the cash to fund their high-rise apartment and her shopping sprees? And more importantly, how long could it possibly last? I had a feeling I already knew the answer. Before we continue, please write in the comments which country you're watching this video from. Enjoy the story, because something told me the sparkle in Lena's eyes wasn't love. It was luxury. And luxury always has a price. But what happens when the money runs out? The first sign something was off came through a mutual friend, Melissa. She and I weren't particularly close, but we'd bonded years ago over wine and work gossip at one of Michael's office parties. Out of nowhere, she texted me a photo, just a screenshot. A blurry image of Lena alone at a local boutique, wearing sunglasses indoors and holding 2 enormous shopping bags. The caption, heard she maxed out his platinum Amex again. Number. Hello, no explanation. Just that. I didn't respond. But my stomach turned in a way that felt unfamiliar. Not quite satisfaction. Not quite pity. Something in between. In the weeks that followed, more pieces started falling into my lap quietly, as if the universe was whispering truths it knew I wasn't ready to say out loud. Michael's lavish Instagram updates slowed down. The fancy, plated brunches became old selfies. The new car disappeared from the background of his photos. Even Lena's social media went suspiciously dark. But the real shift? It came during a run-in I wasn't expecting. I was leaving a small bookstore downtown, my arms full of fiction I'd been meaning to escape into, when I saw him. Michael leaning against his car. Or rather, a car. Not the sleek black Mercedes he used to flaunt. This one was older, maybe 10 years back, with a missing hubcap. His hair wasn't styled, his shirt was wrinkled, and his face looked drawn like he hadn't slept in days. He didn't notice me. Right away. He was too busy on his phone, his voice low but angry. She said she'd cover it. Now she's not answering. A pause. Then, I told you, the loan is temporary. Yes, I know what I signed. I'll figure it out. I froze on the sidewalk. Not because I cared, but because this was the man who once boasted about never needing help. The man who scoffed at budgeting apps. The man who told me I worried too much about the mortgage. And now, he was unraveling. I ducked behind a parked SUV before he could look up. My heart pounded in my ears. Not from fear, but from adrenaline. A low, simmering awareness building inside me. Something was collapsing, and I was finally seeing the cracks. Later that week, Melissa invited me for coffee. She was the kind of person who thrived on inside info, and clearly, I was her outlet. I probably shouldn't say this, she started, stirring her latte with dramatic slowness. But they're fighting, a lot, loudly. I didn't flinch. Just nodded. She went off on him in the office parking lot. Called him a fraud. Said she should have stayed with someone who could actually deliver. Your ex looked like he wanted the ground to open up and swallow him. There it was again, that strange emotion. It wasn't joy. It wasn't bitterness. It was clarity. Like breathing air that hadn't been mine for years. I asked calmly, so they're still living together? Barely, Melissa smirked. Rumor is she's got her eye on a new guy. Real estate investor. Drives a Tesla. Never seen someone move on so fast. Michael was losing control, and not just financially. The man who once accused me of being too safe, too predictable, too careful, was now learning the hard way that stability doesn't look so boring when everything else falls apart. And Lena? She wasn't built for struggle. That much was obvious. What struck me most, though, was how quiet he'd become. No more gloating, no more photos. No more subtle digs posted under the guise of happiness. It was like he was disappearing behind the curtain he'd pulled so dramatically just months ago. But I wasn't going to sit back and wait for karma to finish its work, because karma sometimes needs a little help. And I still had something Michael didn't know about. Proof, receipts, documentation of every financial move he'd made using our joint accounts while the ink on our divorce hadn't even dried. And if he thought Lena walking out would be the worst part of his year, he was about to learn otherwise. It was supposed to be just a quick glance at my credit report. I had been applying for a new apartment, something fresh, something mine. Just me and my peace. But when the agent ran the numbers, she paused, tilted her head, then politely said, "Man, did you co-sign for a personal loan recently?" I blinked. No, I didn't. Her eyes shifted to her screen. Well, according to this, you're a co-borrower on a $35,000 line, opened 4 months ago. 4 months. That was 2 months after the divorce. I excused myself, drove straight home. And for the first time in a while, I didn't cry, I shook. Anger was bubbling just under my skin, so hot it made my hands tremble as I opened my old files. Because Michael had always been the one who handled our finances. I trusted him. Too much. I pulled up the old banking app, the one we used to share. I hadn't touched it since the split. My name was off most of it, but not all. Buried under the tabs was a linked account one I never used, but was never removed from. And there it was, a series of cash withdrawals, wire transfers, credit charges, in my name. One after another, as if I were some invisible ATM machine with no expiration date. The final transaction was dated just 2 weeks ago. A payment to an upscale dating service. Thousands of dollars. Suddenly, the world felt tilted. I leaned against the kitchen counter, my knees weak. This wasn't just betrayal. It was theft. It was fraud. He hadn't just left me for her. He'd been using me even after he walked out, propping up his fantasy life with my name, my credit, my future. And he thought I wouldn't notice. I stared at the screen, my mind racing. All the times he told me I was too careful, too suspicious, too uptight about money. All the times I'd caught little things, late fees, hidden receipts, bounced payments he swore were bank errors. How long had he been doing this? And why hadn't I seen it? The answer was simple. Because I'd been in love. Because I believed marriage meant trust. But now I saw everything clearly. This wasn't just about money. This was about erasure. Michael didn't just move on. He made sure I paid for it. Quietly, systematically. He stole my stability, then handed it off to a woman who saw me as nothing. More than a stepping stone. I should have called the bank first. Maybe even a friend. Instead, I called my lawyer. His voice was calm, firm. Do you have documentation? Yes, screenshots, statements. I still have access. Good, he said. We're going to freeze everything in your name. And we're going to file. I swallowed hard. Criminal? Potentially. It wasn't until I hung up that I realized I was crying not from sadness, but from release. From rage finally given a direction. I stood in the middle of my kitchen, the sun setting outside, casting long shadows across the tile. My hands clenched at my sides. For the first time in a year, I didn't feel like a victim. I felt like a woman who had something to fight for. My name. My future. My story. This wasn't going to end in silence. It wasn't going to be another quiet heartbreak swept under the rug while everyone assumed I was doing fine. Michael had made a fatal miscalculation. He thought I'd stay the same. But I had evolved from the woman he could manipulate into the one who was about to bring everything crashing down on him. Because some lessons? They have to be learned the hard way. I didn't want fireworks. I wanted facts. Cold, clinical, damning. I spent the next few days gathering everything: screenshots, bank records, credit pulls, emails, even old texts where Michael had promised to handle certain bills during our split. There were just enough vague messages to draw a through line from negligent ex-husband to man committing financial fraud with his ex-wife's identity. I met my lawyer, Alan, in person this time. His conference room smelled faintly of leather and sharp ink. He flipped through the files I'd printed out, page by page, nodding slowly. This, he said, tapping a line item from February. This is enough for a civil suit. Possibly criminal. He used your credentials without consent post-divorce. My hands gripped the edge of the chair. Can we make it public? He looked up. You mean file where the press might catch it? I mean, I said, slowly. Can we time it so she sees it first? Alan raised an eyebrow. The other woman? She left him the minute the spending slowed, I said. But she's still connected to his world. She watches. I know it. I want her to see exactly what kind of man he really is. Alan gave a thin smile. I think we can arrange something. We filed the initial complaint that Friday. I also contacted the credit bureau, froze my accounts, flagged the suspicious activity. One representative gasped when she saw the amounts. I'm so sorry, she said softly. This is not uncommon. But it never stops hurting. And a DIDN single quotes T. Not yet. But it was starting to feel different now. Like I wasn't just reacting. I was reclaiming. Meanwhile, I created a new email address and sent myself every screenshot and scanned document, just in case. Then I uploaded them to a private Google Drive folder. Titled it, In Case He Denies It. It was oddly satisfying. Quiet sense of control crept back into my lifelike color, returning to a photo that had faded. But the final piece? That required a little help. Melissa, my old acquaintance and unofficial eyes on the inside, didn't hesitate when I told her what was happening. "Oh my God, yes," she said. "You wanted to land where? Somewhere visible, discreetly." The next week, Michael's company hosted their annual corporate networking gala. Public-facing, semi-formal, sponsored by a law firm. Press was often invited for photo ops and coverage. Melissa would be there. So would Michael. He'd be smiling again, pretending his life was intact, probably scanning the room for the next Lena. What he wouldn't know until the next morning is that every attendee would wake up to a quiet little email. No drama, no subject line that screamed revenge. Just a small, discreet link from a concerned third party pointing to public court records, his name, stamped clearly in the header, listed as the defendant in a pending fraud investigation. I didn't send it, Melissa did. Using a burner account we made together over coffee. It wasn't illegal. It was just informative. That night, I sat at home, lights low, sipping tea while watching my email. At exactly 10:42 p.m., I saw it. Michael Caine viewed shared document. In case he denies it, he knew, and not because I told him. Because the truth told him. No yelling. No confrontation. Just the walls quietly caving in around him, one fact at a time. I turned off the lamp and leaned back into the quiet. For the first time in months, I slept deeply, because now, he wasn't just my ex, he was accountable. And by morning, the final blow would land. I didn't hear from him for 3 days, not a text, not a call, not even one of those cowardly middle-of-the-night emails he used to send when he didn't have the nerve to face things in daylight. But the silence wasn't peace. It was pressure, building. And then it cracked. Day 4. 6:17 a.m. Blocked number. Voicemail left. I didn't listen to it. I played it on speaker in my lawyer's office, sitting across from Alan with coffee in one hand and a pen in the other. Michael's voice sounded different. No charm, no arrogance. Just panic. "Look, I don't know what you think you found, but this is serious. You're ruining my reputation. I could lose everything. I need you to stop this. Call me back, please." I didn't flinch. Alan smirked. Now he wants to talk. We didn't respond. Instead, Alan filed an updated motion to support the fraud allegations. That meant freezing any shared remaining assets, initiating a financial audit, and requesting subpoena power for access to transactions that crossed between our divorce and his personal spending. The filing wasn't quiet this time. Melissa texted me 2 hours later. "It's blowing up. Your ex looked like he saw a ghost in the break room. The senior partners called him in. People are talking." But it wasn't just people. Lena saw it, too. Or rather, read it. In the comments of a business article shared on LinkedIn that featured Michael speaking at a past event. A well-placed link appeared below the article. "Interesting speaker, but maybe do some background checks." Court records link. The internet never forgets. That same day, Michael's profile quietly changed from partner to consultant. His company removed him from the official team page within a week. I didn't even have to make a call. Lena blocked him. Melissa confirmed it. She dipped fast, deleted their photos, changed her status to single, and followed a guy who flips houses in Arizona. Figures, when the money ran out, so did the love. It wasn't long before I got an official offer from his lawyer. Settlement terms. He didn't want it going further. He was willing to repay what he took, plus damages. He wanted confidentiality. Silence, a clean break, but I wasn't interested in revenge anymore. I was interested in justice. I agreed to the terms, with conditions. Full repayment. A signed admission. A formal apology, sealed and notarized, to protect me from future liability. No excuses. No rewrites. He signed it. The final payment hit my account a month later. Enough to erase the debt he created, and then some. And that night, I took myself to dinner alone, a different restaurant from the one where he first told me about Lena. This one was quiet, elegant. A glass of red wine, steak cooked just right, and no one across from me trying to rewrite the truth. For once, I didn't feel betrayed. I felt whole. This wasn't about getting even. It was about standing up for the version of me that stayed silent for too long. The one who thought love meant tolerating disrespect. The one who believed that stability required sacrifice. That it doesn't. Real love doesn't drain you. It doesn't gamble with your name, your credit, your trust. Real love isn't found in secret accounts or designer lies. It's found when you finally choose yourself. I went home that night, lit a candle, opened the window, let the fresh air in. Michael, he'll spend years rebuilding. If he ever does. Me, I'm just getting started.